One of my favorite documentaries is Errol Morris' 1988 masterpiece, The Thin Blue Line. Not just because of how technically well made the movie is, but the impact it had on the real world as well. This movie is responsible for reopening a case of an innocent man who was wrongly convicted of murder, finding himself on death row. The man in question is Randall Dale Adams, convicted of the 1976 murder of Texas police officer Robert Wood. The case was not reopened until 13 years later, in 1989, a year after the release of the film. It was then found that another man, David Harris, was in fact responsible for the murder. I know I just threw all this information at you, but you might be wondering, how can a movie get a man off of death row? Well, while there could be a myriad of answers to that question, in the case of Randall Adams, I believe a large part of that is due to Errol Morris' stroke of genius in deciding to recreate the events of the murder for the movie. This was one of the first documentaries to heavily utilize reenactments, and the effect it had was groundbreaking. This documentary features many different interviews, from people directly involved with the murder like Randall Adams and David Harris, to eyewitnesses who drove by the scene of the crime, seeing it from a distance. These different perspectives on the case make for an interesting outcome because each new perspective gets a new recreation. In an interview with Bill Moyers in 1989, Errol Morris briefly talked about this.
It's interesting, the reenactments in The Thin Blue Line are unlike the reenactments that I usually see.
On the television infotainment shows?
The reenactments in The Thin Blue Line don't purport to tell you what's true. They in fact illustrate lies. They illustrate fantasies. It's one of the sort of perverse aspects of this movie. You asked me what I believe happened on that roadway. I believe David Harris was alone in that car and shot Robert Wood. But I never show it. I show everything but that.
For example, one recreation could have the female cop staying in the car, one could have her getting out of the car and standing at the back right of the other, and one will have her throwing a milkshake out of the car window. There's even a point where the car featured in the recreations is changed, due to one of the interviewees who was involved with investigating the case, stating that they had been looking for the wrong car the whole time.
Of course, it comes out that we weren't looking for a blue Vega, we were looking for a comet. And no telling the man hours we literally wasted looking for a blue Vega.
Showing us two different versions with both of the kinds of cars. As we learn more about the case and what happened, it almost appears as the recreations learn as well, updating themselves every time a new version of the story is told, or an extra factor is added into the mix. There's no doubt in my mind that this was instrumental in reopening the case, and ultimately, finding a new outcome. Reenactments and recreations are some of the most important tools that can be used in documentaries today. If you're making a documentary, use them. It might have a greater impact than you previously predicted.